Hey YouTube, it is League Turnover Day and it is Master League and Holiday Cup Great League Edition. So that means 95% of the player base will be playing this league this week. So we're going to go over top rankings for this league, and then I got 7 teams here. So let's just go over the info because you can just, like I always do, you can get an idea of what's going to be good and what's going to be bad just based on this info, right? So 1500 CP League, Great League, Normal, Grass, Electric, Ice, Flying, and Ghost. So right off the bat, Normal's only weakness is fighting. So there's no fighter typing on this list. You could have like duo eligibility, right? So if you're like, I'm just trying to see if there's like a half fighter, like Chestnut. Chestnut is a grass fighter, so that is in here. But otherwise than that, there's no like pure fighter. So Normal's probably like, I figure out do double, already probably have an advantage in this. Grass, obviously fire and ice are big ones. So there's ice on this, there's no fire. Electric, sort of ground and stuff. So I look at this and I'm like, okay, flying's interesting because there's electric and ice. So flyers, and then ghost, there's only ghost, there's no dark, so that could have play. So, but there are normal and normal typing double resist ghost, so and maybe that's a little tricky. So from that perspective, it's just like, it seems like there's a lot that could be viable here, right? So when we look at the rankings, it's all over the place, and that kind of shows sort of the viability to a certain extent. If you actually look at like what's strong in this meta, you'll see a pattern. Not surprising. So let's just start with the normal Pokemon. In the 3 I mentioned and the 2 I mentioned, Vigoroth double at 1 and 6, and Dunsparce is at 4. Not surprising when your only weakness is fighter, and there's basically very few fighters in this except for the other normals doing like the counter and double kick. You're pretty free, right? No real hard counters. Both of them, all 3 of them will be just great save swaps in this meta, just because of their flexibility. All are pretty spammy, and don't have to deal with a ton of counter users. So Vigoroth, Dunsparce double, if you're looking for a save swap in this meta, those are probably the ones you want to look at. And then, again, there's a lot of different stuff on this. I'm going to go to electric first. So Lantern, even though it's a water, is getting in because it's electric. So Lantern, Magnezone, Pachirisu, Togedemaru, non-Shadow Magnezone again, and Charjabug, right? And it comes down to a few things. It comes down to, one, there is very little that sort of just resists it. There was no, I'm bringing this back up for a second. There's no, what resists it is grass. Normal, I mean, and electric itself, but normal, ice, flying, and ghost obviously do not resist, and flying, as long as it's not a ground flyer, will take super effective. So from that perspective, it's pretty good. Your main weaknesses are, so not a lot of resistances, like no dragon, stuff like that, and then your main sort of weaknesses and like ground, that is not a typing like in itself. Actually, I should mention Stunfisk. Stunfisk is on here as it is half ground, but is half electric. So that is actually the ground that you might want to watch out for. So that is why all these are pretty free, and all of them generally have, not all of them, I should say. You're separated between the nukes in Togedemaru and Magnezone, and just like the bulk and spamminess of Lantern with the like just bulk and decent hitting of like Charjabug. Notice that Lantern has Water Gun on here. I think that is because there's a decent amount of fire coming up here, as you can see. Leo, Talonflame, and stuff like that. We'll go over those fires next. So there's a decent amount of that. Plus, just if there's going to be a lot of electric, you'd rather not do resisted sparks. So that is why Water Gun is the recommended moveset. Speaking, let's go to fire, because there are a few on this list. They get in because they're secondary. Fire is not a typing, but the secondary typing on all these are Skeldurge and Ghost. Leo as a normal typing, Talonflame as a flyer, Marowak, Shadow and non-Shadow as a ghost, right? So they're getting in on that perspective. Whenever you can kind of sneak into these metas as a secondary typing, you always seem to have an advantage, right? Because a lot of times the meta is like built. So if you think about that list, there's ice on that list and there is grass on this list, right? Grass and ice. So 2 of the 5 typings here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 typings. 2 of the 6 typings here take super effective from fire. and then if your secondary typing like Skeledirge and Marowak is Ghost, you now can hit super effective against 3 things because you'll hit super effective against Ghost as well. So those sort of duo typings really gives you the flexibility in these matchups. So hence why Skeledirge, Leo, Talonflame, they all have play in this meta. I guess I'll go to some, I was going to say rock, but they actually get in on their secondary ones because it's not rock. Graveler is electric, so I should have put it as the electric. It's Volt Switch, Stone Edge. So again, a rock, but Volt Switch, and then the rock moves. And then Aurorus is also getting as an ice type Pokemon, but its secondary typing is a rock, so that's why it's there. But again, Aurorus is just not a lot of counter users, not a lot of ground users, but super effective against, with the rock, super effective against all these fires on here. Super effective against flyers with your ice, super effective against grass with your ice, right? So it kind of just nice combo there. Who haven't I talked about yet? Skarmory. Skarmory is one of the flyers. Again, Steel Wing got buffed, so that's why you're seeing it on here, just because it's don't really need to deal with some. There's not a ton of steals, right? Unless they get in on their secondary typing. Not a lot of steals you need to deal with. Kind of gives you a little more freedom there. And there's ice, so Steel Wing, hello, is going to destroy ice. Arctibax gets in because it's ice, but it's one of the probably few dragons that are going to be in this, unless dragon has a secondary tie-in like flying, like Altaria. That'll get in, but it'll be one of the few dragons. And again, Fairy's not in as a typing, Steel's not in as a typing, and we just saw how strong dragons can be when those two typings are not in the meta. And then Obstagoon gets in as a normal typing, but again, one of the few counter users in this meta. Gets in as a normal typing. Half dark. Dark is kind of whatever in this. There's Ghost, right? So you may see a lot of Ghosts because there's no pure darks in this. I mean, Obstagoon is a dark, but like you can't just be like an Umbreon or something. So could be sneaky from that perspective. And I think that is all of the Pokemon on this top 20 list. So let us go over some teams, and let's start with least creative and most effective to going a little off the board. So talk about generally just safe team. Vigoroth double, like I said, Vigoroth double Dunsparce are just going to be so just safe in this meta. As you saw on the front list, because of all the fires that are there, because of the ice that are there, there's not a ton of grass on here either. So hello Vigoroth Lantern combo, and there's no ground, right? Unless you get like this other Stunfisk and stuff like that. But you're running Water Gun in this perspective, so you even do great against that. So yeah, Lantern, Vigoroth, just like two super safe Pokemon in this meta that you know what they are, right? Vigoroth is spammy, super spammy with counter, only one weakness. Now Rock Slide is a huge improvement on Vigoroth, so that is top rankings. Lantern's got the bulk. Lantern's got that water gun to get neutral on, or super effective on a lot of stuff here. Doesn't really need to worry about ground. Doesn't really need to worry about the dragons resisting. Doesn't need to worry about grass a ton, even though it's one of the meta. Like it's so you're pretty safe there. I guessed Vigoroth being weak to counter. I put in Altaria. You can really put in like whatever 30 you want, quite honestly. I put in Altaria because I think it is same thing as a flyer, generally safe, and it also kind of covers your weakness if a grass shows up. So there is Ghost in this, and there's grass in this. So something like Trevenant, although your Trevenant will be double resisted claws on Vigoroth, Trevenant could be a little bit problem. So flyer and Altaria generally answers any sort of grass that you will see here, right? So balanced team, Vigoroth safe swap. Even Lantern could be a safe swap, quite honestly, but obviously Vigoroth is a good safe swap. Togedemaru, if you've been around on this channel for a while, you know that I've loved using it the last few seasons. It is just straight nuke ability. It's very finicky to use. I suggest if you want to use this Pokemon, go check out some of my videos on it because it is very tricky to use. And if you don't know how to use it, you're gonna try it and like this thing sucks. But no, it can be like amazing. It's just very finicky to use. So go check it out. Weak to ground, weak to fighting, weak to fire, which is why you're seeing a lot of big filled in circles there. Dunsparce with ground, double with counter, double kick, Stunfisk with the mud, right? So lots of weaknesses you need to deal with. So I kind of double covered them all in the back. So double, again, just generally safe and can deal with anything. I put in double instead of, you can use Vigoroth to a certain extent, but because one of your weaknesses is fire and Marowak is a ghost, I would like to have payback for that. So that's why I put in double. So generally safe on the board. Picked a third. Third was kind of interesting because you need to kind of cover all those weaknesses. So you see a big double weakness to Dunsparce because you are double weak to rock with Talonflame. So Dunsparce could actually like destroy you. So if you're seeing a lot of Dunsparces and you want to use Togedemaru, and double I think will work very well. I would probably go with a different third, quite honestly. I just didn't find a third that I loved. The reason that I put in the flyer is because double and Togedemaru are weak to fighting. So how I think I would play this team out is I would lead Talonflame, which is why I put it first on the thing. I'd lead Talonflame. I would safe swap double to try and draw out either a counter user or something that would just beat that. But mostly you're trying to draw like other counter users, stuff like that. And then have Togedemaru a little more freedom in the back that one of your sort of weaknesses are gone. But again, you don't need to use Talonflame as a flyer. You can use something else that can deal with sort of the fighters, but you also need to deal with, like, again, rock and ground. So I start with Stunfisk on this third team because I think Stunfisk is going to be very, very strong in this meta. I think that it's got a few weaknesses in ice and grass that are in this meta. But outside of that, I think it's generally safe. I think it's spammy. Again, lots of fire so you cover with the ground. Lots of fire so you cover with the electric. Just generally spammy. Decent bulk. So I think Stunfisk is going to be a nice little sneaky play in here that you can, like, I feel kind of safe with as well. Covered. So you are weak to ice. And you're like, why are you pairing it with Lurantis? Because Lurantis has, if you never used Lurantis, it has, first of all, one of the fastest charging freaking Pokemon I've ever used. It just seems like you're always at a move, and it has superpower. So if you're weak to ice, there, or you can have the Grass Knot or Leaf Blade. I think Leaf Blade, which is also spams and hits pretty hard. And then if you're still running into trouble with double weak to ice, Aurorus as an ice rock will very easily handle that in the back. So that is why I have that. I think you can probably use Stunfisk as a safe swap on this team. I feel like Mud Bomb and Discharge is the electric move. I feel like those are just generally safe for this meta. Like your toughest answer is gonna be grass. If you get caught up with the grass on it, that's kind of tough. And actually, now that I look at it, depends on the grass they bring in. You may not have anything to throw at Lurantis, which you would have with Aurorus. But Aurorus is also weak to grass. You know what? Looking at this team, I'm making a change. Just the more I think about it in practice, it's one of those things where, you know what? I'm gonna stick with it, and this is why. I always say, I am fine. I am fine going into with a team that has just like a very, very big weakness if that weakness is very rare. And I think grass in this meta is going to be very rare. Just because looking at all like just look at the bottom of that list. Litleo, Talonflame, Charjabug, Sandslash, Marowak, Charizard, like Skeldurge up there. I just think that between all that, Skarmory, Arctibax as an ice, like this whole front page screams, do not bring grass, right? So I'm fine making a team that's generally weak to a typing like that if I know that it's probably going to be rare. And it's one of those that if you see it, like maybe you can get a Roarus on it and do super effective there, and you can just like combo it. Fury Cutter will do super effective as a fast move on Lurantis. So maybe you can combo it, but maybe it'll just be a loss. But if you can just like if you can just accept that this will be a strong team outside of that weakness, and just accept those losses, then you will be able to play with it. And that's kind of like my philosophy. I'm fine putting out a team that I know has can be core broken, but if that core breaker is not there often, it's fine. It's fine. So we start with Skeledirge on this one because I'm like, you know what? The fire typing I think is going to be pretty sneaky in this. Skeledirge has proven its strength. I've mentioned it in my other video earlier this week in the Ultra League. I tested it in the Great League. It is by far the best starter Pokemon without a community move to use since I've started PvP in Season 1, like GBL in Season 1. It just seems like its moveset is super, super strong and its typing is like nice combo there. So I think it's like a very strong Pokemon, so I put that in. Obviously going to be weak to, there's Water and Lantern, and there's Dunsparce and with a ground, and Double, I guess, has Dark, and so there's going to be some problems. So I dealt with that with Chestnut. So there is your grass fighter, right? So it takes care of the water Pokemon. It takes care of the normal typing Pokemon and Dunsparce and stuff like that. So nice combo down the board. And I needed a third. And what did I say at the beginning of this video and multiple times? You're 3 if you just want to pick a two Pokemon that you think are going to work together, and then throw in Vigoroth, Dunsparce, or Double, you're fine. And Dunsparce, same thing. Like, look at that down the board. Super, super safe down the board. And that's the thing. Like, if you want to just build I think this is probably going to be one of the easiest metas if you want to build a pair that you like together, that you've tested in Open Great League that you've used before, and you just need a safe swap. I think it's very easy just to pair 2 Pokemon together and then safe swap one of the normal typings in this meta. Maybe everyone will do that, and maybe people will start going like Chestnut as your safe, as like an answer to those, because it's a nice answer. It is a fighter grass, so it really kind of walls a lot of Pokemon. Not walls, but like will really cause a lot of problems for Pokemon. So it's something to consider, but I think early on you're probably fine. This one I started with Skarmory because Skarmory got buffed. Let's go into it. But again, look at that list. Lantern, Togedemaru, all the electric. I talk about how free electric are. All the fires in here, right? So Skarmory, maybe a little sneaky. I don't love it, but if you don't want to run Skarmory, one of the best pairings is a ground type in Diggersby, being able to not only resist the electric, but just destroy the electric, and to but like really, really beat up on the fires as well. So it's just a great pairing. And Diggersby is actually kind of interesting on its own. Like, look at those matchups. It's got bulk. We know that. It's got, if you're running Scorching Sands Hyper Beam, you should be able to hit pretty much everything. Maybe you want to do Fire Punch instead, but I feel like Hyper Beam's probably fine. It's up to you. I actually prefer it with Fire Punch Scorching Sands, but it's up to you how you want to play that. But generally, just same thing. Like, not a ton of waters, not a ton of fighters. So right off the bat, there's ice. There's some ice. But there's a lot of fires that you can deal with too. So, and then the third I put in is Raichu. They kept recommending Raichu, and I'm just like, and it goes back to the electric, right? It's the electrics here. I think are gonna be, there's gonna be Diggersby. There's gonna be Charjabug. Charjabug will resist. It's electric as well. I meant Gligar. There's Gligar as the flyer ground. So there will be some answers, but there's not a ton of ground, right? Because ground is not a typing in this meta. It's only going to get in through its secondary, which Diggersby is half normal, so that's how it gets in. So the electrics are pretty good, and the same thing with Raichu, right down the board, generally safe. So if you at least have, if you're going to use an electric and you have an answer for like ground type Pokemon, you should generally be pretty good with electrics too. And that's why I'm kind of liking this meta. It's like, oh, normal typings are going to have play. Oh, fires are going to, or like secondary fires are going to have plays. Oh, electric are going to have play. So like, it's interesting. ABB style team here. Dragonite lead. Vigoroth safe swap / trying to draw out a fighter, and then Litleo in the back. Litleo is half normal, half fire. So I'm using Vigoroth as a safe swap, trying to draw out like a water, or trying to draw something that like Dragonite will fighter or water, or something that Dragonite will have trouble with. So they'll come in on the Vigoroth, Dragonite can do that, and then your Leo kind of roams free in the back. I'm pretty sure that Leo has Incinerate, so it got buffed this season as well. Someone will fact check me if that is incorrect, but I'm pretty sure it has Incinerate. So buff there. Again, that normal typing adds on your fighting weakness, but there's not a ton of that in this meta. But if you want to run ABB, that is a suggestion. And I think the last one here is a double electric team. Yeah. This is getting ugly. Okay. So Lantern, I already talked about how safe it is. I wanted to see Charge Bug too, because I think electrics are going to have a pretty good time here. So I guess you can kind of stand with against Marowak, even though you're going to lose. But Charge Bug and Lantern are two of those Pokemon where they're both bulky enough. When you get hit with their charge moves, it's a lot of the time like, yes, this will kind of hurt, but not too much. I can probably let this go. I can let a Surf go. I can let a Next Scissor go. And then by the time you notice, those are starting to add up. And then Wiggly in the back, if you get shields, if you get like a shield advantage, or if they are just like holding onto their shields, you get in there and you just pounce. Again, not a ton of steals in this. Some fires, which I already mentioned a few of them there. But outside of the steals, fire, and like no real poisons in here either. Because poison is not a typing, so I'd have to get in through its secondary typing. If you don't see any of those, Wiggly, again, this is the one shield. Wiggly always looks worse than the one shield. When you're using Wiggly, you never really use it in the even one shield, right? You use it with a shield advantage. Or if you're just trying to like charm down your opponent and catch them off guard. So even though when you look at this, like, why would I use Wiggly? It's like terrible. It's barely winning anything against the top meta. That's not how you use Wiggly. And that's why when you're team building and you see teams like this and you try it out, what I always I think I went over in just in my last video, maybe yesterday, maybe 2 days ago. I think I went on a whole, not rant, but a whole conversation of like, don't blindly use content creators teams. Like, these are all suggestions of what I think could work together, but it's also one thing to like look at the matrix and look at a team, but if you don't actually understand how to use it properly, it's not going to work for as well for you as it will for me or like the person putting it together, right? If you're going to use any of these teams, you better know how the different types of matchups and like how to use each Pokemon. So like, again, Wiggly here looks terrible. I would never use Wiggly in the 1v1 even energy shield scenario. I would always try to use it with shield advantage. Charge-a-Bug and Lantern are pretty tanky. They are good at chipping and doing decent damage and absorbing it. So take that, do that damage, and take that shield advantage on Wiggly in the back end, right? So any of these teams that I've put up, even if it's as simple as team number 1, which is Vigoroth, Lantern, Altaria, like, just like, yes, this team should work in theory for anyone. This team is very straightforward, right? Altaria, weak to ice. Vigoroth, safe swap. Lantern, balanced team. Like, it, even in practice, like, this should be a very, very easy team to use. If you're going to use it, just like know the ins and outs of your matchups, because it's one thing for us to put it on the screen and give you ideas and say this team's strong. It's another thing to actually use it properly and maximize it to its full potential. But that is it. So that's the top meta. What do I think the meta is going to be? I think you're going to see, like I said, I think that there are just Vigoroth, Dunsparce, Double should be generally super, super safe. So I would expect a lot of those. I expect because there's not a, I expect there to actually be a decent amount of Stunfisk. And if it actually goes this way, where there isn't a lot of electric and a lot of fire, I do expect to see an increase in Stunfisk and Diggersby. I'm interested in trying electric right off the bat because I think electric is going to be pretty strong in this meta. But yeah, so the normal types should be strong. The electric should be strong. Maybe in the secondary with fire should be decent as well. Yeah, so I think there's a lot that could be good this week. And I'm excited to try a bunch of these things out. Anyways, let me know in the comments below what you are looking at in this meta, what you are going to try out. And yeah, or if you're gonna play Master League, I'm not gonna do teams for Master League, but I am gonna look at like Incinerate got buffed, Breaking Swipe got nerfed. What does that mean for the rankings in Master League? So that'll be this afternoon. But if you know me, I do not have the legendaries to compete in Master League. So we are going to be doing 100% Holiday Cup this entire week. So stay tuned for many, many teams with different Pokemon. Anyways, that is it. Thanks for watching. See you guys in the next one.